What if the truth isn't just a temporary scandal, but a complete, terrifying psychological unraveling of a man we all thought we knew inside and out? To understand where we are going, we have to look at where the pieces currently stand. Right now, the board is incredibly volatile. We have Willow Kane backed into a terrifying corner, desperately trying to keep her dark actions buried. She is in a state of sheer panic over Felicia Scorpio's revelation that Drew Kane might soon regain his ability to communicate, knowing full well that Drew holds the absolute key to her ultimate destruction. Meanwhile, Brooklyn Quartermain is playing a highly dangerous, reckless game. She is actively framing Willow for Jordan Ashford's hit and run, enlisting Brick's technical expertise to fabricate GPS evidence that places Willow's black SUV right at the scene of the crime. And standing right in the dead center of this explosive, toxic dynamic is Harrison Chase. Chase is the lead detective on the case, the supposedly loyal husband to Brooklyn, and the supposed white knight who just jumped into a fountain to rescue Willow from her staged altercation with Tracy Quartermain. On the surface, Chase looks like a pawn being played by both his wife and the woman he used to love. He appears to be a man caught in the crossfire, blindly following the evidence. But this is just the starting line. The pieces are in position, but the game they are about to play is entirely different from the one we are currently watching. The first future we need to talk about completely rewrites Harrison Chase's entire history and character trajectory. There is a very real, very dangerous possibility that Willow is hiding a massive secret that transcends all the blackmail and the hit and run framing. She might be a few weeks pregnant. Now, everyone in Port Charles firmly believes that Chase cannot have children due to his past infertility diagnosis. But what if that diagnosis was a complete, calculated fabrication? What if Chase, a seasoned, highly intelligent detective, orchestrated his own medical records because he fundamentally and deeply did not want to build a family with Brooklyn? Imagine the level of deception required to pull that off. He would have had to falsify lab results, lie to his wife to her face for months, and pretend to mourn a future he actively chose to destroy. If this happens, it changes the entire power dynamic of the show. In this trajectory, Chase has secretly harbored a deep, obsessive, unyielding love for Willow all this time. He isn't blind to her sins. As a brilliant cop, he sees right through her staged fountain falls, her desperate lies, and her manipulative negotiations with Jack Brennan. He knows exactly what she is doing to Drew, and he knows exactly what Brooklyn is doing to frame her. But instead of arresting Willow or exposing his wife, he uses this knowledge to isolate Willow. He becomes her ultimate protector, letting her believe she is fooling him while he is actually controlling the entire narrative from the shadows. In this scenario, Brooklyn loses everything she thought she had. Her husband is revealed to be a fraud who never wanted a future with her. Willow benefits temporarily, finding a fierce, unwavering protector, but she ultimately loses her autonomy, becoming entirely dependent on Chase's dark, possessive obsession. The entire Quartermain family would be shaken to its core, leading to a psychological thriller where Chase systematically removes every threat to Willow, not out of police duty, but out of a twisted, controlling love. Now, let's pivot to a completely different timeline. The second future isn't about Chase silently pulling strings from the shadows. It's about a massive, public, undeniable explosion caused by the impending recovery of Drew Kane. We know Felicia Scorpio is arranging for Drew to communicate again. If Drew regains his voice and his cognitive faculties, his very first move will be to absolutely annihilate Willow Kane. He will march straight to the authorities and expose every single illegal, immoral thing she has done, tearing her reputation to shreds in front of Michael, Tracy, and all of Port Charles. He will threaten to take her children, strip her of her freedom, and ensure she spends years in Pentonville. Willow will face total, inescapable ruin. But this is where the story could take a shocking, heartbreaking turn. Instead of Chase manipulating the situation secretly, he steps directly into the blinding spotlight and commits the ultimate act of self-sacrifice. When Drew brings the damning evidence to the PCPD, Chase intercepts it. He doesn't just destroy the files, he actively takes the fall for all of Willow's crimes. Chase stands up in front of Commissioner Anna Devane, ADA Justine Turner, his devastated wife Brooke Lynn, and the entire town, and falsely confesses to orchestrating the blackmail, the cover-ups, and the manipulation. Why would a decorated officer do this? Because if Willow is carrying his child, his primal protective instincts will completely override his badge, his morals, and his own instinct for survival. This future turns Chase into a tragic martyr. Brooke Lynn would be left completely destroyed, dropping to her knees as she realizes her husband threw his entire life and career away for another woman. Willow would be saved from prison, but she would have to live with the crushing, suffocating guilt of knowing a good man is sitting in a cold cell because of her actions. This fundamentally alters the show from a suspenseful mystery to a profound, devastating tragedy of unrequited, sacrificial love. But guys, there is a third future, and this is the one that gives me absolute chills. This is the path that almost no one sees coming. The darkest, most terrifying timeline General Hospital could possibly explore. What if Chase doesn't just protect Willow, and he doesn't just take the fall for her? What if Chase decides that the only way to truly secure their future and the future of their unborn child is to permanently eliminate the threat? We are talking about Harrison Chase, the golden boy of the Port Charles Police Department, crossing the ultimate unforgivable line and becoming a cold-blooded murderer. If Drew continues to push threatening Willow's freedom and the life of the family Chase is desperately wanted, Chase might realize that the legal system cannot protect her. He might meticulously, coldly plan a hit on Drew Kane. Think about the mechanics of this. As a top-tier detective, Chase knows exactly how to commit a horrific crime and get away with it. He knows how to bypass security cameras, how to spoof burner phones, how to tamper with forensic evidence, and how to establish an ironclad alibi. He could silence Drew permanently, ensuring Willow's dark secrets die with him in a pool of blood. The irony here is absolutely staggering. Brooke Lynn is currently using Brick to fabricate GPS evidence for a simple hit and run, but what if Chase uses his actual lethal police expertise to frame someone else, maybe even Brooke Lynn herself, or Michael Corinthos for Drew's brutal murder? This transforms Chase into an outright villain, an anti-hero whose moral compass has been completely, irreparably shattered by his obsessive love. This is a path of absolutely no return, turning Port Charles into a dark hunting ground where the lead investigator is actually the apex predator hiding in plain sight. If you ask me, the path that feels most likely and honestly the most compelling for long-term storytelling is a terrifying blend of the first and third scenarios. I keep coming back to the idea that Harrison Chase is far too intelligent, far too observant to be this blind to the women in his life. The story could be heading toward a massive, earth-shattering revelation that Chase has known absolutely everything from day one. It makes the most narrative sense. To have him just be a clueless, bumbling victim of Brooke Lynn and Willow's manipulations is a massive waste of his character's potential and his history as a sharp detective. I genuinely believe the writers are setting up Chase's supposed infertility as the ultimate Chekhov's gun. You do not introduce a massive, life-altering plot point like a healthy young man being unable to have children, only to have his true unspoken love suddenly turn up pregnant a few months later, unless you are planning a massive, reality-breaking twist. The path that makes the most sense is Chase revealing a deeply hidden dark side. I think we are going to see him slowly, methodically drop the good honest cop persona. When Drew finally makes his move to destroy Willow, I believe Chase will intervene, not by taking the fall and going to prison, but by using his badge and his authority to neutralize Drew in a way that is highly illegal, morally bankrupt, and incredibly dangerous. This gives us the most dramatic payoff possible. A complex, toxic, dangerous love triangle where the stakes are literally life and death, and where the lines between hero and villain are completely erased. Looking ahead, we have to ask ourselves, what happens after the dust settles? If that happens, if Chase crosses that line and becomes the very criminal he swore an oath to arrest, what happens next may be even more terrifying. The bigger consequence may be how this specific betrayal affects the rest of the canvas. If Chase neutralizes Drew and covers up Willow's crimes, he essentially owns her. She will be bound to him not just by a secret pregnancy, but by a horrific, shared, bloody secret. This could lead to a terrifying psychological dynamic where Willow wakes up one day and realizes she hasn't found a savior at all. She has found a captor. She will be trapped in a relationship built on murder and extortion, unable to leave because Chase holds all the cards. And what about Brooklyn Quartermain? If she eventually discovers that her husband faked his sterility, framed someone for murder, and abandoned her to start a twisted family with Willow, we are looking at the birth of a brand new, ruthlessly vengeful Quartermain villain. Brooklyn wouldn't just sit in the mansion and cry. She would go to absolute war. There's a chance that this sets up a years-long bloody vendetta, pulling in Tracy, Michael, and even Sonny Corinthos into the crossfire. The story isn't just about a secret pregnancy or a faked medical record. It's about the total, catastrophic collapse of the moral order in Port Charles. Every single character connected to them, from Dante Falconeri, who will have to investigate his best friend, to Justine Turner, who will demand justice, will be dragged into the abyss. The future here isn't just a single explosive event. It's a relentless, expanding shockwave of betrayal, obsession, and vengeance that will rewrite the rules of this town forever. We are watching the calm before the storm, guys, and when this storm finally hits, nothing will ever be the same again.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.